taken care of two of our meetings this year at no cost through the speakers. This is an interesting topic to speak on. I went in my closet and I came up with the only Phoenixville hat I still have. When I retired from my 25 years in athletics at the high school, I had jackets and coaches' shirts and sweaters, and my wife looked at all that purple in the closet and she said, "Why don't you give that to some of the current coaches or the incoming athletic director?" So I did, but I kept the hat. Anyway, this is an interesting topic, and we called it Phoenixville Athletes, Famous and Not So Famous, because as I think everybody under the tent here can realize, that certain sports get notoriety and publicity, particularly if they are on television all the time. So that unless somebody is a professional athlete, generally in football or baseball or basketball, they don't stay in the limelight very long. The reality is, though, if you look back on Phoenixville and not just the high school, we have had some outstanding athletes in many, many different sports. And there are many sports that never get recognized. One of the persons that's helped keep them alive a little bit over the years, and I'm glad to see Barry Taglieber here. Barry, your work as a photographer through the years has been great. We missed some of the local coverage with newspapers, but the Barrys, Barry Taglieber and Barry Sankey, they have been instrumental in promoting the athletes of our area, and I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it as an athletic director when I was very active in that area. So there's certain sports that are in the public eye, but there are a lot of other athletes who have achieved great things. We're talking about people that were on Olympic teams. We're talking about people that were professionals in other sports. There were people that were All-Americans at both the high school and the collegiate level. There are people that not only went from being collegiate All-Americans to now coaching Division I college sports, and they are in the background and you don't hear much about them. So we're going to try to share some of those with you today. If you think back from the 1890s onward, 1890s was when the first organized sports teams started to be founded in Phoenixville. How many thousands of athletes played on all those different teams that played in all those sports? So we're not going to go through 200,000 names today. And if you have a cousin or a grandparent or a great-grandparent who we missed, I'm apologizing ahead of time. Now, we had some posters up here. The wind, before most of you got here, the wind sailed them across the room at least twice. We caught them another time. And then John put the Berlin Wall up here behind us, and it has helped, but the wind still is playing havoc with these things. So we invite you to come up and take a look at them. To make life interesting, most of the pictures have no names attached. That way Julian and I have something to say when you come up. Anyway, so we're going to take a look at this in two parts. Chester County has a county sports hall of fame. And by our good fortune, Julian is the current president of the Chester County Sports Hall of Fame, and he's going to share some. Now please, he's paid $100,000 a year to do that. His wife wishes he was paid $100,000 a year. Julian's going to talk about some of the Phoenixville residents who have been elected to the Chester County Sports Hall of Fame. And then it'll be my turn. So Julian, the floor is yours.
Try to get myself situated up here. I've been involved with the Chester County Sports Hall of Fame since its inception in 2008. And in that very first year, Phoenixville was represented by two pretty obvious choices. The first one is, of course, Mike Piazza. And what I have here of Mike's, some of you may or may not know my background, but I spent 10 years in professional baseball in administration, 9 of which were up in Reading, with the Reading Phillies, and then I spent 23 years in the sports trading card business with Fleer Trading Cards. And one of the fun sets that we did back in, I think it was 2008, was we took, let me see if I can take this with me farther. We took a Fleer design that was very popular in 1963. And what's a little bit different about this design is you can see the caricature in the lower left-hand corner of the position that the player played in the field, or in some cases we used either a left-handed or right-handed batter. But when you look through the entire set, it's fun because you'll see like the outfielder caricature would be a guy catching a fly ball. The left or right-handed hitters, starting pitchers were kind of in a follow-through, and relief pitchers were like in the set position. But this is the card we did of Piazza, and we took this along with other cards from that particular set, blew them up, and when we went to sports trading card events like the National in Atlantic City or Chicago, we would take these things along with us. And these are like one of a kind, so they're really pretty valuable. So that was Mr. Piazza. And of course, secondly, Andre Thornton. Everybody knows the Thornton family here in Phoenixville, of what they've accomplished, both as working in the community and as athletes. And Andre, or as some people called him, Andy, was a very accomplished baseball player, of course, who played the majority of his career with the Cleveland Indians. And he also was inducted in 2008. And when, this is one of those times the ones decide to misbehave. When the Thornton family had one of the Andre Thornton days, I think it was maybe 2017 or 18, he donated some of his memorabilia to be sold or auctioned off. So I was fortunate enough to win 2 items. This Andre, unlike Billy, if you recall, was a Phoenixville policeman. Billy was an outstanding sprinter in high school and in college. And legend goes that he was supposed to be put up against Bob Hayes, who in the '64 Olympics in Tokyo ran like probably the fastest 100 meters of that time. But something had happened with that race. I don't know if Billy had pulled a hamstring, but he's the one in the Thornton family on the male side who got the speed. Andre was not fast. But what we have here, Andre, believe it or not, hit for the cycle. For those of you who are not baseball fans, when you hit for the cycle in baseball, you hit a single, a double, a triple, and a home run all in one game. It's very rare, and there's another type of cycle called the natural cycle when you get those hits all in that order. So Andre did his, I can't see what the year is, but he did his in Boston. Now, those of you who have been to Fenway Park or who've seen it on television, it's a ballpark that has really unusual dimensions. And for Andre to get a triple, it had to hit a corner and bounce a long way away from the fielder, which it did. So that's why he was able to, using his nickname Thunder, his nickname was Andre Thunder Thornton, he was able to thunder into third base with his triple. Then, of course, the home run and double and single were a lot easier to obtain. And I have one other piece that was from that particular auction. He was, let me get my notes here. He was named Player of the Week in Major League Baseball one time way back for the week of July 6th, 1974. And he received this gigantic stein. Can you imagine how many beers you could put into this stein? But his name, it's engraved Hams. Some of you may remember Hams beer. I think it's still out, maybe down around Baltimore. Player of the Week, Andy Thornton, July 6th, 1974. So I collect some things, not a whole lot, but I like the things that are a little more interesting and eclectic. And my last thing of Andre Thornton, and this is before he got to the big leagues. My dad was an Army officer for 30 years, and three of those years we were stationed in Hawaii. Hawaii at that time had a baseball team called the Hawaii Islanders. They were a AAA team, and when we lived there for 2 of the years, Al Michaels, that was his last minor league place he broadcasted before he went to the big leagues. So we knew Al Michaels before he became famous. But the Eugene Emeralds at that time were the Phillies Farm Club. And I was looking through my scorebook one day, and I looked and saw that, this is before Mike Schmidt became famous, before any of these guys became famous. Would you believe that at one time Mike Schmidt hit 8th in the lineup? And this is in AAA baseball. And this is a game where Andre Thornton, our own Andre Thornton, pinch hit for Mike Schmidt. So I've often wondered how many times has Schmidt ever pinch hit for in his career, which couldn't have been many. But I was a big scorekeeper back in those days, and it's right here. So, and these things obviously you can look at. But I'll move on because, but I felt I'd spend enough time on that to make it interesting. And in 2010, we inducted Nick Baska. He was a great athlete, obviously at Phoenixville, went to Villanova, and played professionally with the Eagles. And he was killed in action in World War II as a tank commander. He's buried up in Montclair. And Dorothy Jaworski wrote a really good book on Nick a few years ago. So if you have a chance to pick that up, it's really worth a read. In 2012, Neil Akowitz was inducted, the linebacker for the Redskins. He was a two-time member of a Super Bowl team. And the year he was inducted, I'll never forget the last sentence he had when he was inducted, and he said to those assembling, he said, "Thank you for remembering me." So I always thought that was a cool way to end the speech. And he's also in the Pennsylvania State Sports Hall of Fame, as well as the Tri-County Sports Hall of Fame. Our good friend Doc Kennedy, the longtime baseball coach, was inducted in 2013. Also that year, 2013, our beloved longtime tennis coach Leo Skoda. So we're fortunate that both of those men are still with us and attend many Phoenixville sports functions. We had 2 more people inducted in 2014, the following year. Ted Travis Bay was an incredible athlete in many sports. He lost his life a few years ago from cancer, but he had always had some great stories. And one of the stories he told me that I thought was really cool is that he was recruited by Woody Hayes to play at Ohio State. Woody Hayes saw the speed that he had and the strength, and thought that he would be a great scrambling type quarterback. But Ted decided to stay closer, went to Wilkes, and the reason he did that is because he wanted to be closer to home, because his mom was a single mom, and he had a younger sister. So he felt he wanted to stay closer to home, which I felt was obviously very admirable. And when his sister became a really good track star at Phoenixville, she took an Ohio State scholarship and ran track there. So I thought that was a cool similarity between those two. Also inducted with Ted was Judy Wolstenholme. We all know Judy from her many athletic exploits and obviously field hockey, lacrosse, her officiating throughout the years. And she is the president of the Phoenixville High School Sports Hall of Fame, and she and Jack do a great job of leading that committee and finding the people every year to induct into that wonderful organization. And then Jack always helps me with, because we're always trying to get more Phoenixville people into the Chester County Sports Hall of Fame. It's really heavily laden with Westchester, Downingtown, Coatesville people. It's tough to get representation down there from up here, up in our part of the county. So it's always good when Jack can give me some information, and some of those people we've just recognized, we'll be recognizing shortly in this presentation. But Judy's been a great person to talk with and to help out, and her brother-in-law was inducted, Al Wolstenholme, just this year, and he was a longtime wrestling coach at Conestoga. We have a section called the Historical Members section that looks at those people who've been overlooked. They've either passed or they're over 80 years of age. And in 2022, Irish Joe Rowan, a boxer from here in Phoenixville, somebody's phone's going. He was inducted in 2022. And that induction ceremony happens in April each year. Our normal induction ceremony happens in November. But it was a long time waiting for him to be posthumously. In fact, all three of the ones that we've done in the last 3 years have been inducted posthumously. So Irish Joe was inducted in 2022. Those of you who went to Phoenixville High School, you may remember George Meklos. He was Phoenixville class, I think of 1932 or 31. I'd have to look it up to be more definitive. But he went on to he was a teacher, obviously, but he went and was also a tank commander in World War II. Was involved in the Battle of the Bulge and came back with a Purple Heart. And he continued his teaching career and helped coach the baseball and football teams until Korea came. Then he went to the Korean War and was also there for a number of years, and then came back, got a master's degree from Temple, and taught, I think, until this is 1979, is he right? And a lot of people tell me he was a tough teacher. Tough but fair. But he was somebody who had been long overlooked, and that's why I'm glad we were able to get him inducted as part of the historic member chapter or section of the Hall of Fame. And just this year, back in mid-April, and this is Jack provided a great write-up on this gentleman, Joe Geary, who was an incredible running back in Phoenixville. He was like a lot of the young men who graduated from high school in the late 30s and early 40s. They enlisted, did their service time, and came back from World War II. And I had a lot of people over the years from that time period tell me that the greatest college sports were during that time period because the men came back older, more mature, their bodies were bigger, and they were better athletes and certainly a lot stronger than the 18 and 19-year-olds that were coming into school at that time. But Joe Geary is one of those. He went from Phoenixville to the University of Georgia following the war and was drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers as a running back, played for the Steelers, I believe, for 3 or 4 years, and then ended his career with the Chicago Cardinals, and then became a coach down in the Georgia area. So that's what I have about the Chester County Sports Hall of Fame and its Phoenixville connection. So if any of you have any people you feel that would be worthy of a nomination, Leo Scott is now on the nominating committee, which is great because we needed a voice besides myself on that Hall of Fame committee. And just so you know, Rob Vance is going to be on this year's ballot, and he was one of Leo's star tennis pupils at Phoenixville High School. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Julian. Julian has the printouts from the Hall of Fame that you're welcome to take a look at when we're finished today. He also has the one from the state one for Oakowitz that's on the floor here. We have a couple other things too. We have pictures of most of the people that are in Chester County Hall of Fame on the posters up here. And over on my left side here, on Neil Okowitz's picture, at the bottom of it is a photograph that I took when I was at the Pennsylvania Hall of Fame induction with him. And he has 3 Super Bowl rings. The Redskins won 2 of the 3 he was in. And I took a picture of him holding up his ring. So if you want to see what Super Bowl rings looked like back in the 70s, now they're about twice as thick as that, 3 times as costly. I find it interesting. Well, Julian mentioned the High School Sports Hall of Fame. And in 2010, after a number of years, Judy Smiley Wolstenholme, Smiley was her name in high school, She had been promoting the idea of the school district starting a Hall of Fame for several years and never got much traction with it until she went to the superintendent at the time, and they agreed to it. And in 2011, the Hall of Fame inducted its first group, and to date, more than 170 Phoenixville athletes have been inducted into the high school Hall of Fame. Another group of 10 will be inducted this October. I can't read off their names yet because they are being officially notified this week. And until the candidate or the nominee is notified and the family is notified, we don't make it public. But those in the school Hall of Fame represent what they used to include in that Wide World of Sports opening little monologue, the variety of sports. So the Hall of Fame has every sport under the sun, including a couple of people that are from the Phoenixville area, went to Phoenixville schools, and the school didn't even sponsor that sport. There are boxers in the school district towards the Sports Hall of Fame. There is an archer in the Sports Hall of Fame who has participated in the Paralympics and has won medals. And so, as I said, more than 170 athletes. Now, why is it that some people end up in the public eye and others don't? A lot of it, of course, is TV sports. But the reality is that things have gotten in the way of people who are great athletes who could have achieved more. As we get things at the Hall of Fame in Phoenixville, we get names nominated to us who are people who may have played professional athletes, except the Great Depression got in the way. People had to go work for their families. World War II got in the way. Opportunities. Before Title I, the opportunities for women in athletics was extremely limited. The first women's sports team the school district ever had was field hockey and basketball in the 19-teens and 20s. They were the only two sports. So the opportunities were very limited. So I'm going to talk about some people that you may have vaguely heard of, and I'm going to take a walk around. I'm going to show you a picture and see if anybody can guess who this is. Now, a couple of people I showed this to down the society, so do me a favor, don't say anything. I'm going to hold this up. Should have put it on cardboard. Okay? Those of you who went to the high school maybe years ago, anybody recognize this person? No?
What years you told? Jack, what years you told?
I'm not going to give you any hints. Okay.
Can you come back?
Are we coming up light?
We can see it.
Okay.
Jack, I can't see that
Okay,
far.
I'm sorry. This is a blow up of the newspaper photograph. And of course, in the old days of the newspaper photographs, all the little dots tend to spread out when you blow them up.
Dated by the bathing suit.
Okay. Phoenixville class of 1924. Catherine Rankin. Oh, anybody have Cat Rankin as a teacher?
My mother did.
People that know her related to sports always think of coaching. She was a pioneer in women's coaching and a mentor to many, many women's coaches. What most people are unaware is she was a champion swimmer at Temple University in the class of 1930 at Temple. And she graduated from Phoenixville. I'm going to work my way back to the microphone. Graduated from Phoenixville, went to Temple University, and came back to teach at Phoenixville, and taught at Phoenixville for the rest of her professional life. During that time, she coached a variety of sports, particularly field hockey and basketball, and in many, many ways, for years before Leo's tennis juggernaut came along, the girls' basketball team held the record for the most consecutive victories in the history of the school district. They were undefeated for about 6 years. Okay. I won't tell you how many games they played every season, because the reality was that it was the days of the good old boys club. And in fact, during the war years, a lot of the sports were shut down. because of gas rationing and buses, having to use buses to travel from one place to another. So there's a lot of athletes that people are unaware of, never got the recognition. For example, anybody tell me what sport has produced more All-Americans from Phoenixville than any other sport? I hear football, that's wrong. Anybody? Tennis? Nope.
Baseball.
Baseball, not even close.
Lacrosse.
The answer is women's lacrosse. The last count I went through, more than 15 graduates of Phoenixville Area High School have been All-Americans in lacrosse. And in fact, some of you may remember Tara Kramer from the late 80s, early 90s. Mr. Tagliver's going like this. Tara Kramer went on to college, and she was an All-American 3 consecutive years in lacrosse. Another Phoenixville athlete that some of you may have heard of, Amy Umbach, was not only a star athlete in field hockey and lacrosse, she was a PIAA champion swimmer even when Phoenixville didn't have swimming. She went on to be an All-American in college, and from that she went into coaching and became the head lacrosse coach at Stanford University. Pretty prestigious. And in fact, at least 3 Phoenixville women graduates have ended up as collegiate head lacrosse coaches in the United States. Tara Kramer went to Loyola of Maryland, by the way, and I'm competing with a motorcycle. In track and field, I'm going to take questions at the end. At track and field, more than 70 Phoenixville athletes have won medals at the state level. We have had athletes that have competed in the Olympics. Some of you may remember from the class of 1995, Carlos Garcia, now calls himself Carlos Garcia Samuels. He, fortunately for us, moved from the Dominican Republic to Phoenixville just in time to be a 4-time state medalist in track. Helped our track team win the championship for our league and in the districts. Went on to represent the United States in the U.S. Olympics. Most people don't remember him. I have a picture of him over here. The pictures I have up front here represent a variety. So, as I said, we'd have hundreds of pictures here. In tennis, the dynamic duo of McAvoy and Vance, most of you have heard of Tim McAvoy and Rob Vance. As 10th graders, they were state champions in doubles tennis. Each of them went on to be extremely successful at the collegiate level as well. However, unless you turn into a pro tennis player, that's kind of the end of the line in terms of notoriety. Kelly Fodinger, who was just inducted, he was from the class of 2010, was inducted last year, has won more tennis matches than anyone in the history of tennis in Phoenixville. And nobody remembers her name. So, I mean, I could go on and on, but I'm going to highlight the Thornton family, who fortunately moved to Phoenixville from the Carolinas and have produced probably more great athletes than any other family. Now, Julian, if you do me a favor, the poster that has the information about Judy Wolstenholme, if you would just hold that up. Anybody recognize that picture? Tilt it so Mr. Smith filming can see it. That is Gwen Thornton, Phoenixville class of 1965. She was a stellar athlete, field hockey, lacrosse, track, and softball at the same time. Great athlete. The college opportunity wasn't there. She ended up playing sports for almost 20 years in the military, representing the Army in various teams. She was stationed in Berlin at one time. So we have a wide variety of people, and I don't want to go on and on, but I want to just mention a couple other names. For example, in track and field, the first state champion in a track event was in the high jump in 1950. Some of you may have known Clayton Setzler, class of 1950. Stacy Robinson. You might remember Stacy Robinson? Cross country and long distance champion on the high school teams. She went to Villanova University and won the NCAA championship. She's now married and has 2 children. And we can go on and on and on. People you may have never heard of. We've had a state champion in wrestling, Jeff Belo, class of 1975. One of the things that was common about all of these athletes, I think, is they all had a real competitive drive. And those of you who had a chance to watch them know that they had that competitive drive. And I'm going to stop before I go on and on and on and tell you a Neil Olkowitz story. Neil Olkowitz was one of the most competitive people I ever knew. And the example I'm going to give you has nothing to do with sports. I was teaching sociology. I don't think, Ken, you were in that class. But in my sociology class, we were doing a unit on learning and intelligence. And as some of you are familiar, when you have little children and they're just learning hand-eye coordination and things, you buy those toys where you fit. One of them was called a shape-up. I remember my wife had it. It was like a ball and had these plastic pieces, a cross, a triangle, a circle, and it had to fit in the right hole. Well, a lot of intelligence tests that were early used on people were non-written, non-verbal intelligence tests. So I brought one of these things into class one day to my senior sociology class, and I said, we're going to see how you do. And I got my stopwatch out that I had at my desk in the athletic office, and I got half a dozen people up front. Now, it's a little hard to do that because there are a dozen things to fit in there, and we're going on the clock. And this time you have an audience of 25 other people there. And people are doing it in 32 seconds, 43 seconds, 51 seconds. Neil Olkowitz comes up and sits down. And he just starts. And, oh, here's the football star, the big jock, blah, blah, blah. And he gets flustered. And it takes him 1 minute and 12 seconds. More than anyone else in the class. And he goes back and he sits down. And he's sitting the middle seat in the middle row. And I'm doing somebody else, and it's going to be the last one, and we're going to talk about what does this all mean. And I see smoke coming out of somebody's ears, at least it looked like that, in the middle of the room. And all of a sudden I hear this snarly voice say, let me try that again. Jumps up out of his chair, runs up to the front of the room, sits down, and does it in 19 seconds. And looks at everybody, doesn't even say a word, just goes and sits there. Now, that's what I mean by having this competitive drive. You know, it's like Will Rogers used to say, Americans are very, very competitive people, and if there were an egg-laying contest in Mongolia, we'd send a representative and we'd lay more eggs than any other country. But anyway, we don't want to be here all day. Well, we appreciate all of you coming and give you a chance to look at our goodies, maybe identify some folks. But we'd be glad to take some questions. Ken, you had a question?
Yeah, how many of the Thornton girls were all Americans in lacrosse? You know?
Well, Bill Thornton and his wife had 4 daughters, Amina, Amara, Shira, and Yasmin. All 4 of them were All-Americans in lacrosse, a couple of them in field hockey. They all went to college. 2 of them played on NCAA championship lacrosse teams. In addition, Bill Thornton was a great athlete. Actually had tryouts for multiple professional teams and ran track and won many medals and actually competed in the Olympic trials. The Thornton family, also Bill Thornton's 3 brothers, were all champion athletes. Some of you may remember Eric Thornton was a great pitcher on a championship team at the high school. Youngest brother, Greg, is now pastor in Phoenixville. He was the star halfback on the undefeated 12-0 football team in the 1970s when the team was ranked first in the state of Pennsylvania. And Andre of Thornton, of course, and his professional athletic achievements in baseball are very, very well known. So we've been blessed with the Thornton family in Phoenix. Good question. Any other questions? Anybody have? Yes, Angie.
A quick comment.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed listening.
Oh, thank you.
Speak. I just wanted to mention, you were talking about the Ertell awards, and I thought I mentioned my daughter Deanna got one of his awards for track, and she also got inducted in the Sports Hall of Fame 2 years ago. So we appreciate your support. Well,
If we start going through the list,
I'm just gonna
no, many of,
Yeah, no, just because.
many of our athletes
Yeah.
are also in halls of fame.
Yeah.
Did I say that grammatically correct? Halls of fame, that sounds right. In halls of fame for the college or university that they attended, or are in halls of fame of the sport, nationally, the sport. And there are people that represented the United States on USA teams in field hockey and lacrosse. We've had people that had the intention of playing professional basketball, for example, in Europe, and health of a parent got in the way, and they changed their goals so that they could be closer to home and be with their father when they were dying of pancreatic cancer. Totally changed the direction of their life. So a lot of things get in the way, but the reality is we've had many, many great athletes in Phoenixville, and we need to acknowledge them more than just the ones that are professionals. Anybody else have a question? Yep, Julian, yeah. I want to thank you all for coming today. And please come up and look at our goodies. Julian?
I had one more thing on my list, and I totally forgot. And it's the most recent award that the Chester County Sports Hall of Fame gave out a couple weeks ago at the Senior Awards night. And it's an award that the Sports Hall of Fame started 7 years ago in memory of the former athletic director at Westchester, and he was also the former mayor, Richard Yoder. And for 7 years, the organization's given out the Richard B. Yoder Scholar Athlete of the Year Award. It goes to the top male and top female athlete in the county. And this is these are from nominations made by, we try to get all the athletic directors to nominate somebody, not all of them cooperate, but Athletic Director Grinstead sent in 2 excellent nominations this year. And I'm happy to tell you that for the first time in the 7 years of this award, a Phoenixville athlete won the award. His name is Sam Moore. Sam played primarily, his big sport was football. He was Defensive Player of the Year for the conference, and he also played offense. And he was a swimmer, and he was on the track team as well. So Sam is going to Ursinus. The scholarship that we provided was $1,500, and after we gave out that scholarship, and Angie was there giving out scholarships as well, he received 5 more awards that night. So obviously it wasn't just us who thought he was wonderful. And one last thing about the female that Athletic Director Grinstead nominated, a young lady by the name of Kate, oh goodness, what's her last name? She's a golfer. Kate Roberts, there we go. She came in 3rd in our balloting for the female athlete of the year. She's a past PIAA state champion in golf a couple years ago. She and her sister got to play on the Phoenixville team this year. Her sister, Kaylee, is a sophomore, who will obviously be a junior this next school year. Kaylee, if you watched any golf just before the Masters, was on national television with a bunch of other youngsters her age. It was the National Drive, Chip, and Putt contest that is sponsored by golf. And they do it at Augusta National just the weekend before the Masters tournament. And after the first 2 events, she was tied for first. So I was all fired up watching it. And then they took them to the 18th green at the Masters. If any of you are golf fans and you've watched the Masters, the 18th green is almost impossible. But especially for kids, and these kids are 8 to 15. And she didn't do too well with the putting, so she ended up coming in 7th nationally, which is still really nice. So we expect more good things to come out of her and her junior and senior year, and hopefully by the time she's a senior, she'll be nominated for the award like her sister was. But we've got, as Jack said, we've got some great athletes in Phoenixville. I'm so glad that Sam Moore was our winner.
Yes.
I just have to echo Angie, and I think this has been the most interesting and fascinating presentation from both of you. It has really been a delight to hear all this.
Thank you. Before I turn the mic back to El Presidente here, one quick thing. I ran off about 20 or 25 copies of the current membership of the School District Sports Hall of Fame. And if you'd like a copy, please come up and pick it up. They will blow all over the place. But it lists people by what year they were inducted, what graduating class they were in, or what year they attended Phoenixville, and what sports they were on. It has a little one-line thing. The first group inducted, by the way, is, some of you are very much aware, you've been in Phoenixville for multiple generations, that Phoenixville once had what was called an old timers club. And this was really the good old boys, right, Barry? And they would meet every year, and they would elect people to their mythical Hall of Fame. And when we created the Hall of Fame, what we agreed with the superintendent to do was, and they represented people that went way back into the teens, that we would, from that, all of those members of the Old Timers Hall of Fame, all of them who were Phoenixville people, and because they had people from Springford and all over the place. They were the first class inducted. So they became the initial class in the Hall of Fame. And then after that, we have a committee that does the selection. If you are interested in nominating someone, and you might want to look over the list, make sure they're not there already. You can go to the school district's website, and they have the nomination form that one can download, print it, and send it to us. And we meet every year and try to select a handful of people that are worthy of induction. This year we will be inducting 10 people, 2 of whom are deceased. And we've been working at identifying family members who can come and represent them. But if you want a copy of the Hall of Fame induction list, it printed a little goofy, so one page is blank on one side. But feel free to come up, browse our items, and John has a couple.
Well, let's give one more big round of applause for Julian and Jack. Fabulous job, fabulous. That concludes our business meeting, and again, we thank you for coming. But before you leave, you don't even have to pay for your strawberries, cake, and ice cream. Plus, there's oatmeal cake. There's all kinds of other goodies. Please go back. There's the ice chests are full of sodas. And if you didn't get to see the renovation photos on the screen over there on the video, it's just starting up again, and it just runs in a continuous loop. So again, thank you for coming. And is there a motion to adjourn? Martha, and second we have Ginger. All right, and all in favor, say aye. Aye. Have a great day, and there's ice cream too.